up spring. Yes, everything's coming up spring. Oh, the birds build a nest and they begin to sing. The world come up to see if it was spring. Everything's coming up spring. Flowers grow high, flowers grow low. Butterflies said, well, it's time to go. Everything's coming up spring. Everything's coming up spring. He said, that's not fair. To look like me, it's jungle out there. Everything's coming up spring. Everything's coming up spring.
We were promised a change, a return to normalcy, but now things are more chaotic than ever. We were promised a uniting president, but we are more divided than ever. We were promised a transparent administration, but they can't be honest about anything. We were promised an end to the pandemic, but deaths have actually gone up, even with vaccines. Instead of any of the things we were promised, we got an angry old man with dementia that has driven the country even further apart and harmed the country more than any of his biggest critics could have predicted.
4 more years of Georgia, he's going to find ourselves in a position where if Trump gets elected, we're going to be in a different world.
Did you see yesterday when he called me George? No, I don't know if I like George. Don't know. Not George.
Here's a quick look at Biden's first year of failures. Keep in mind this is only his first year. The Afghanistan withdrawal. He left countless Americans and our allies stranded at the hands of the Taliban. He also left billions of dollars in U.S. equipment, making the Taliban the world's 5th largest army as far as military hardware. Inflation has risen to a multi-decade high under Biden. Everything you buy has gone up. As I mentioned before, he has failed to unite the country as he promised he would. He can't even unite his own party, with people like Joe Manchin opposing Build Back Better and his other policies. He signed more executive orders in his first week than any president in history, ignoring the role of the legislative branch. But remember, the right are the authoritarians. Wink wink. He created the Biden border crisis, and he has no plan to address the crisis, and he won't even go to the border. He assigned Kamala Harris, who once compared ICE to the KKK, as the border czar. And she has also not gone to the border. He's limiting and censoring what the media is allowed to show at the overcrowded facilities housing migrants. He built the cages, and he doesn't want anyone to see them. He ceased the border wall construction despite congressional appropriations. Because walls don't work, except for everywhere there's walls, they actually work. So there's that. He released thousands of recently apprehended illegal border crossers from custody without even issuing them a notice to appear in immigration court. He allowed criminal aliens to be released into American communities. He violated the CDC guidelines at the border by releasing COVID-positive aliens into the country. Remember, the party of science. Over 2 million illegal immigrants have already come into the country in this first year. And Biden or the Democrats don't care anything about doing anything about it for one simple reason. They need the votes. That's the only way they can win, and they know it. There's also been a 486% increase in unaccompanied alien children arriving at the border. And there's been a 1,056% increase in families arriving compared to when Trump was in office. There's been over 5,000 migrants with criminal convictions apprehended in the year 2021, including murderers, people who had committed assault, and sexual offenders. But it gets even better. The federal government is spending $60 million a week to house illegal immigrants. We have a massive supply chain shortage. You'll find at least a few store shelves empty almost everywhere you go. But Biden is hard at work to solve this problem. Honestly, just ask him, he'll tell you. And it has nothing to show, but yeah, he's doing it. And if you haven't noticed, there's also a huge crime wave sweeping across the country. but it's mostly in blue cities, so I'm fine with that. Biden had us re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement, which disadvantaged the United States. It left Americans to shoulder the cost of higher energy bills, fewer jobs, and less energy production. Remember, under Trump, we were energy independent. Now we have to beg OPEC to lower prices and increase production. Now, Biden did back the Nord Stream 2 pipeline by waiving sanctions. This helped Russia immensely. But for America, he killed the Keystone pipeline. Now, that not only raised your energy prices, it also destroyed thousands of good-paying jobs. So, it was a win-win. He also halted oil and gas leasing on federal lands. Now, stopping the Keystone pipeline and not letting people dig on federal lands and begging OPEC for oil, that has nothing to do with the rising gas prices, which are roughly twice what they were when Trump was in office. Seriously, trust the experts. They would never lie to you. He also rejoined the World Health Organization, without it undergoing needed reforms. If you're not aware with how corrupt the World Health Organization is, don't worry, just go back to sleep. We'll wake you up when it's time to eat. He also appointed the former Pennsylvania Department of Health Secretary, Rachel Levin, to a top HHS post, even though she issued an order sending COVID-positive patients into nursing homes, killing thousands. That reminds me of someone. Oh yes, he refused to hold Governor Cuomo accountable for his deadly nursing home order and cover-up. Remember when Governor Cuomo was the hero of the left? It was just a few months ago. Biden failed to establish a national COVID-19 testing strategy. He also falsely claimed that he had a vaccine distribution plan, which in fact, he just copied Trump's. But Biden trusts the science. He trusts the experts. He's a good guy. He signed an executive order mandating masks on federal property. But then hours later, he was spotted without a mask on federal property. Truly a man of the people. But there's more good news. He advocated for packing the Supreme Court, because Democrats didn't get their way. Remember, it's the Republicans who are the authoritarians. Biden also advocated for changing the Senate filibuster, which he defended for years while in the U.S. Senate. But again, this has nothing to do with Democratic power grabs. And obviously, they are not the authoritarians. Just ask them. Biden also supports an unconstitutional bill to grant D.C. statehood. Again, this is so they can stay in power. Democrats know they're going to get so screwed in the next election, and they have to do everything, even if it's against the law and against the Constitution. They have to do it because they know that's the only way they are going to stay in power. Biden also stopped rules requiring U.S. universities and K-12 schools with foreign exchange program to disclose financial ties or other connections to the Chinese state-run Confucius Institutes, which seek to sway students and adults into believing CCP propaganda. Now, why would he have done this? Biden also issued an executive order denying funding for schools unless they allow biological males in female bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports teams. The Democrats are single-handedly destroying women's sports. You've come a long way, baby. Biden also rescinded President Trump's order prohibiting federal funds from being spent overseas to fund abortion. With all the problems we have in America, thank God we are spending money on abortions in other countries. The Democrats truly have their finger on the pulse of the nation. Remember when Trump passed a rule aimed at lowering insulin and EpiPen prices? Yeah, Biden froze that. So now if you have severe allergies or diabetes, you'll be paying more. But if it makes you feel any better, Biden acted really angry talking about how much it costs families for insulin.
Being the parent, making the minimum wage or twice the minimum wage, and having a child with type 1 diabetes, knowing that if you can't and have no insurance, knowing if you cannot get that money for the insulin, your child may die. In addition to your child, it strips you of your dignity, damn it. Can you imagine looking at your child and you know what they need and not be able to do it?
Biden also proposed a 43.4% capital gains tax. He also proposed a tax hike which would hit families, not just individuals, making $400,000 a year. Breaking a promise to the American people. It's for your own good. The government knows how to spend your money better than you do. Remember that. He proposed a $2 trillion so-called infrastructure plan, and only 6% of the spending was for roads and bridges. He also proposes to spend $600 billion of spending on radical Green New Deal provisions in the infrastructure package. President Biden has also consistently failed to stand up to China, which some people might think is our biggest rival, and would like to see America destroyed. Everyone knows that the Chinese Communist Party intentionally withheld information about the spread of COVID-19 as early as December of 2019. We know it lied to the world about the existence and origin of the virus, and it used the World Health Organization to spread its propaganda. But don't worry, when the time's right, Joe will take care of it. You did hear about Corn Pop, right?
There. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Remember, Biden is the most popular president in American history, and he has no mean tweets. So there's no denying that this first year of his presidency was one of the best. But what's weird is he has the lowest approval rating of any president in modern history. He's even fallen way below Trump's lowest level. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as videos like mine tend to get shadow banned by YouTube. Take care.